Alright, so today, just something slightly a little bit different than normal is I just want to do a little bit of a review of something that I've been using now for about 2 years. When Nick moved from Wales and he moved out to Spain, he took a lot of his equipment with him, and he's got quite a few nice like fuzz pedals, distortion pedals, a couple of really nice tape delays, really cool electro harmonics pedals as well that was all here in Edith's Vale. When he was moving, he's like, okay, I'm gonna probably be losing some of the bits and pieces that I've been using for quite a while, so I need to start thinking about buying a few pedals to replace it. One of the issues obviously I have is that like there's tons that I quite like. I mean, I really miss Super Overdrive. There's a couple other things that I really like that weren't here anymore, and so when I was looking for replacements, I thought, well, let's try and think about something that's like it's cost effective and it'll save me a bit of money. So the thing that I actually ended up coming up with was the Orange came out about 2 years ago with a pedal called the Teleport. Now this pedal is it's a class compliant USB sound card. Now how a class compliant sound card works is that with Macintosh systems and OS X, the audio driver is actually built into the operating system. So it means that with this sound card, what that means is that it's literally built in. We don't have to install any drivers. We don't have to install anything. It's literally just a case of plug the USB into the computer and it should just effectively work. When it's plugged in and like this, obviously what that means is that the guitar input coming in here will go into the USB onto the computer, which if I just go onto main stage, it will go into this. And then I'll feed the sounds, and if I'm routing it to another amplifier, it'll then come out of here, and I've got two outputs here which will then go into like an amplifier maybe in the live room. I can add a couple of pedals before the chain, and so if there's anything that I wanted to add that I could do that. I use this on Choir Boys and the Amazing Disgrace album. I think Paul was looking for like there was a section where we needed like an octave pedal for a part, or was like an auto wah, like an envelope filter, and this actually came in really handy because we just literally all I did was I loaded Amplitude, and we just loaded the plugin up on a pedal on Amplitude, and they just ran through that. I bypassed everything else and it just set up, so it's like a really useful little sound card to use. So I just want to talk a little bit about that, how I use it, and then a couple of pros and cons. So hopefully this isn't going to be too much of a long video. Really simple. It's like a little micro pedal. It's like the same size as like, say, like I've got a Moore tuner here. Like it doesn't have an internal battery or anything to power it, so you do need a 9-volt supply to actually power this unit. There's a USB connection on the top which goes into your laptop. It's a USB 2, and it doesn't need to be any more than that because we're only actually looking at a stereo in and stereo out, or actually a single input as far as I'm aware. It might be actually band's jack in, but I'm not 100% sure. And then it's literally like a small little converter on the inside which then connects onto your computer to work as a really simple sound card. I'm using this quite a lot at home just for practicing, for like plugging my bass into the system. It's just really easy. One USB sound card, things come out, route that to my speakers, and we're all good to go. As I say, there's no controls, no knobs, it's literally on or off. And then if we just go on to main stage, I can just show you a little bit about how it all works. So I use main stage generally when I'm recording. What I'll tend to do with this pedal is I'll run it on a different system than my computer. So on my Mac Pro, it is actually powerful enough to use it for this, like recording purposes. I wouldn't normally run Pro Tools or Logic or anything at the same time. When I'm using this as a sound, like a little mini sound card for effects, I'm tending to run either main stage or Amplitude with it rather than something like Logic or Pro Tools. The reason for this is I'm running it off my laptop, so I haven't got as much CPU processing power on it as I do on my main system, and it can cause like dropouts from here from time to time as well. So that's something more to do with my computer, that I didn't buy it for audio processing, I did it for like the really boring stuff like admin and emails and things like that. So it was never designed, I never bought it designed for like audio processing. I'll do a bit of like live recording, I'll take it out for that, but the reason I'm tending to use like main stage or Amplitude is I don't really need any of the recording software. I don't really need any of the recording process. Like main stage or Amplitude more stable at a lower buffer setting than I have on Logic. But at the present time, I've split the output just so you can hear it. So it's built-in output on my laptop, which will then run into the studio speakers. My one input is just a jack lead. So if I just plug this in, it'll actually sound like an amp. Yeah. So we have. So this is literally just like a default setting on the guitar, which is probably an AC30. With this default guitar setting, I can go through and change like to different sound. Main stage looks very, very similar to Logic. Obviously, we don't have the arrange window, and we don't have a lot of stuff that we don't need. So then, like, the other thing we can do is we can open up the plugin windows as normal. So I'm just going to open up the open up the pedal board just a second. Just open it up again. Does that even come up on here? The mixer window that I could change and add plugins. The sounds that I've got, again, this is like, I'm not a great guitarist, not gonna lie, there's better people who can do it for me. I'm sure if like we've got Chris back in playing this for me, I'm sure we could get some wicked sounds out of this. But for me, like, as I say, how I'm using it generally, I'm just using it for like effects to like add to the recording chain. I might still send it out into like an amp or whatever, and it's just really, really useful for that. And let's have a look at just some other things that we could do. So just turn all these off, just show you what the raw sound is. Turn the sound off as well. Let's say like I just want to use some audio units now rather than just the built-in Logic stuff. Say I wanted to use Sound Toys and I wanted to go, let's go Softtube actually. And let's just say I wanted to put a really cool like a reverb on or something on it. Let's just do an RS1 reverb or SAR reverb. There you go, you can hear it. So it sounds quite cool on its own. So we got this SAR reverb here. This is a really cool little reverb. I really like about it is that I can add a couple of effects that I may not be using or may not be used to using, or like adding sounds that I haven't got access to. Really, really simply. So basically the only limitation is like whatever plugins I've got on my system, but because I've got quite a lot, it means I could use like built-in stuff. I can add extra bits and pieces at a later date as well, and I could make a general massive noise out of this. What I could also do is I could also look at using this as a reamping box by doing a aggregate audio device. So I could actually add two sound cards together, put this at the front of the chain, and I could send like DI signals out into the studio for reamping at a later point if I wanted to. You're only really limited by what restrictions you set yourself or what restrictions you have in the studio. So like the pros and cons. So one of the pros for this is that it's really, really simple to use. There's no controls and stuff on the settings, and if you spend a bit of time setting up your sounds, you've almost got an unlimited palette of what you could use. So I'd recommend, if you were thinking about using this, I probably would recommend spending a bit of time just going through and getting some, like starting points. You're never really going to go through and use the same thing every time, so it's worth having a look about what might work and what might not. It's class compliant for the Mac, so you basically just plug and play. There's no controls on it, so it's literally on or off. Really, really small form factor, so it's pretty straightforward, and you can double it up as like if we did like an aggregate device. I could look at using this for reamping guitars out into an amp and then recording it back in on my other inputs and stuff in Pro Tools. So that's another advantage for it, is that we can do that. We're not really limited on sounds that we can get. It's basically as much as we can, whatever plugins we have in the system, we can get a sound, whatever sound we want. So if I want to use some Sound Toy stuff, if I want to use some of my Softtube amp sims, I can use them as effects before the amp, and they'll probably sound pretty good. Disadvantage is you don't get the hands-on control that you do with, say, like your normal pedals. So obviously with like a tube screamer or something, we've got the controls on here, so it'd be nice and easy just to change settings. It's the same with my Ampeg as well. I'll probably want to tweak bits and pieces. It feels really weird when you're changing pedals with a mouse or a trackpad, and it's like trying to go like, change stuff. The reason why I suggest saying like spend some time building your own presets is because it's a bit cumbersome trying to build stuff, load a plugin, do another thing, add extra sounds or plugins. It takes a bit of time, and it really hinders your creative process. Where obviously with plugin, with pedals and stuff, it's like, right, plug that in there, take this one over here, go like that, okay, right, turn it on, does it sound better? No, if not, take it out, and it's a lot quicker. So that's one of the issues. At the present time, I've also got an issue with my teleport, that if I plug a pedal in with it before the sound card, it seems to be like an electrical noise or something. It doesn't sound great. I might do another video at that point. So what I tend to do is I'd normally just run this dry on its own, or I have to double check it. I need to get another 9-volt power supply and see if there's an issue where I can't run it off the same power bank as I'm using all the other stuff. But I'm not 100% sure. But for the time being, I'm using it on its own and it's sounding fine. And if I don't, I might use a pedal for something else. But overall, I really can't recommend it enough. If you want to have a few sounds, if you think about getting into the pedal game, this could be like a really easy cheat to get around that. But let me know what you guys are using it for. I'd love to hear from you and see what you're using it for. As I said, I've used this as send returns on amps. I've used it for reverb effects. I've used it for like a whammy of distortion. So it's really useful for that. And give me a like and subscribe. Any questions, give me a shout, and I'll see you all again next time. Cheers, guys.